As of 5 p.m, they've announced that turnout was at 59.71%. That's a very marginal increase on last week, and regardless, it's the highest we've seen since 1986. So this is a really extremely high figure. It tallies with what we've seen in the polling station where we've spent much of the day, where staff were telling us that they were crossing names off the list this week as votes cast, whose names weren't crossed off last week. So that's people who weren't mobilised last week, who came out this week. We've also spoken to a lot of people in the street this week. We've seen a record number of votes by proxy registered. We spoke to people who had other proxies vote for them. We also spoke to people who were just so galvanised that they signed up to online platforms to vote on behalf of strangers. That's how important they felt it was. Other indicators nationally show that 460,000 votes were cast by those who live in the French living abroad constituencies. So this is far from an election that the French people are ambivalent towards, and the figures speak for themselves.
And Antonia, we do remain under electoral silence laws until the polls close. So without getting too much into politics, can you just remind us what are some of the potential outcomes of this vote?
Of course. So when all the votes are in and tallied, we could be looking at various outcomes. One of them would be an absolute majority for one group, one party. Another would be a relative majority. And another would be if no group has really massively set itself apart from the others. In several of these or very possible cases, what we would potentially be looking at is a very difficult to govern National Assembly. Another thing to take into account is that if the leader of the largest party, who may become the Prime Minister, is not of the same political family as the President, that would put us in an extremely rare situation in terms of the democratic processes. Who would have more power? Would the Prime Minister be more of a brake on the President's power, or would the President be more of a brake on the Prime Minister enacting that agenda they've campaigned on? A lot will, of course, depend on those voters whose first-choice candidate backed out in the second round, and those sort of orphans, as the first round, as they're sometimes being called, whether they will turn out to vote. Sounds like they maybe have. And how they'll vote. Will they follow instructions given by their first choice candidate? Well, we won't know until this evening. The results will be in just a few hours. Paris polling stations will be open until 8, whereas most of France, they're closing in just under an hour.